I think the best thing to do is I've got the slide, so
Yeah,
when I change slide, I know which slide we're on. So
yeah,
yeah, that's fine.
yeah, and I will change from my side, John. In the meantime, yeah.
Yeah.
When you say,
maybe could you try leaving and rejoining, John? I think he did already.
yeah, I think he's already doing it probably.
Thank you everyone for joining. We'll just wait for a couple of minutes before officially starting today's session.
Okay, Naveed, I'm back in.
Okay, good.
Something went wrong, and anyway, I'm back in. So I'll just yeah, we'll just go through the slides. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think, yeah, let's give them a couple more minutes.
Okay.
And then we will kick off.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. I think Omar, we can make a start.
Okay. I'll do that. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Muhammad Umar Kamal, and I'm pleased to welcome you on behalf of IFRSLab. We are an energy consulting firm, and we've been operating over a decade in the UK, UAE, and Pakistan. At IFRSLab, we work and we've been committed to helping organizations unlock their energy saving potentials through both technical interventions and behavioral changes. For today, we are proud to have been partnered with EnCO, which stands for Energy Conscious Organizations. It's a UK-based initiative supported by the Energy Institute. And today's session is designed to raise awareness about the powerful role that people can play in achieving energy efficiency and working towards net zero. Now, before we get into the content, I'd like to briefly introduce the experts before I hand it over to them to give a more in-depth introductions of themselves. We are joined by Mr. John Mulholland. He's a chartered chemical engineer with over 50 years of experience in the energy sector. And he has over 37 years of dedicated experience dedicated to behavioral changes across 15 countries. He's a founding director of EnCO and a fellow of the Energy Institute. And we are very honored to have him here with us today. He's joined by Mr. Naveed Shaikh, who is a chartered energy manager with over 14 years of hands-on experience in the public and commercial sectors. Mr. Naveed has led several ESOS audits and GRG reporting initiative, and he will be focusing on the net zero strategies in today's session. Now, I'd like to hand over to Mr. John and Mr. Naveed to give more detailed introductions about themselves.
Great. Well, thank you very much indeed. And thank you for joining us on this Saturday, for giving your time to it. It's a short 1 hour session and there'll be plenty of time for discussion afterwards. We'd like to just, first of all, we're on the welcome slide. We'd like just to go through what saving energy through people actually means as an introduction. We want to talk a little bit about EnCO as an organization, ENCO. And also talk briefly about the coming seminar that we'll be running in Dubai on the 16th and 17th of August. And we very much hope that you might be able to come. It's a person-to-person presentation and seminar and interaction. And I'm sure we'll be in for a great 2 days. So just a few words about myself. Next slide, Naveed. You've already heard a few things about me. I started life as a chemical engineer 50 years ago and worked in the inorganic and petrochemical industries for 15 years, troubleshooting, process design, commissioning, operating large plant. And then in 1988, I decided to become an energy consultant. And since then, I've been working on both technical projects, but also quite a lot of behavior projects. In other words, using people to save energy. And it's been a fantastic journey, and I'm here really today to share a little bit about some of the principles I've learned that you also could apply in your organization. Naveed, over to you.
Thank you, John. Hi, everyone. Good to see you, and I'm looking forward to see you in person in Dubai at some point, as John mentioned. I'm Naveed. I'm a chartered energy manager with the Energy Institute UK. I'm basically a mechanical engineer. Unlike John, I haven't got 50+ years experience. I've been working in the industry for last 14 years, delivering energy audits, future energy strategies, decarbonization projects. And these days, of course, we are trying to grab as much as possible low-hanging fruit with quick paybacks so that we can generate enough capex to feed back into capital projects such as solar, replacing assets, old assets with more energy efficient assets. So the reason I partnered with John, or I work closely with John, is when I carry out energy audits, we can't do all the projects with over 5 years of payback. Otherwise, the industry cannot afford all of them. So the strategy always is to look for the low-hanging fruit, quick payback projects. And I really like the idea of savings through people. And that's a starting point for us when we go and deliver big projects following by the energy audits. So I'm really looking forward to, of course, this session. And I think we are bringing not something very new to you, but with a slightly different approach where to start from and actually what to do in succession when the projects or the energy audits are completed. My belief is that behavior change is not a one-off opportunity. It actually keeps ticking over. So we have to re-look back it again and again. Thank you, John. Over to you.
Okay, then. Well, thanks, Naveed. We're going to be talking about saving energy through people. If we could just move on to the next slide, reduce consumption.
Yep.
There is a field of thought where people think that technical and data solutions are the only way of saving energy. But in my 50 years of experience, I would say that the three key aspects in saving energy are the technical opportunities, the data information, and the people. And all three of these are interrelated by the green arrows. And the idea is that if you just do one and ignore the other two, you will not achieve the savings that you hoped you would. And also, people solutions don't stand in isolation in energy management, but need to be an integral part linked to the data and the technical. So as a chartered engineer and energy consultant, I know pretty much most of the technical solutions, and I'm sure you do as well. So it's not that we're ignoring the technical solutions or the data. In fact, all of them are needed in order to get a holistic approach to energy management. But the thing that is missing globally is a lack of understanding by energy professionals about the people dimension, the human interaction dimension that can either save energy or waste energy. And that's what we're really looking at here in this session. And also, it's the whole reason why a few energy professionals in the UK who are members of the Energy Institute teamed up to form EnCO, because we felt there was potential there. Next slide, please. The benefits of people solutions. Well, you can see some bullet points there on the screen. I'm not going to go through them all, but just to say the first three are basically direct benefits, reduction in consumption cost and CO2. But there are also indirect or co-benefits that can come about by saving energy through people. And some of those are listed there. And what we found is that some of the co-benefits are can be more important to organizations or people within organizations than the actual main benefit. So that might surprise you, but therefore the whole idea of achieving our objectives slightly indirectly is an important part of harnessing people solutions. I've written a paper on this called Obliquity, and we'll be covering this on the course. We'll be reading it in next month and going through this and looking at what some of the co-benefits could be in your organization, because that can help to leave a commitment. Right, next slide, please. Energy saving potential. Now, this slide might surprise you, but when we talked among energy professionals in the UK, we assessed from doing energy audits that probably half the energy, end-use energy used in industry and commerce was wasted, up to half. And that might sound surprising to you, given that we've been on the energy journey for 50 years or 60 years in the UK. But nevertheless, there is enormous amounts of waste even now. And some of that waste is actually technology driven. So for example, if you've got a building energy management system that's not properly programmed or nobody's looking after it, instead of saving energy, it's going to be wasting energy. That's a people solution. That's not just a technical solution, it's a people solution. So if we then break that down, the 50% into the next slide, energy saving potential, we estimate that about half the wasted energy could be saved by technical solutions and half by behavioral solutions. Now, it will vary from company to company. I think in some process industries, the potential savings will be less, simply because there's so much automated control, you know, particularly in things like petrochemicals. But certainly in the built environment, these savings are there to be had. And that has massive implications for the way energy professionals do audits and advise their clients, whether you're an energy professional working embedded within an organization or you're a consultant advising clients as external consultants. So I just want to give you a very quick practical example of this in practice. So case study number one, next slide, please, Naveed. I was asked to do a mandatory energy audit for a company in the UK. They were manufacturers of furniture. So they basically made beds and they made sofas and the sort of stuff that you put in your home. And before I got to do the audit on the site, I looked at the half-hourly electricity data and discovered that there were potential savings, and I'll be showing that to you in a moment. But the annual electricity savings by people solutions turned out to be 25.9%. That wasn't theoretical. I predicted 16%, but when they actually did it, it was 25.9%. It was, the savings were more than even I imagined. And so if we just look at the next slide, there's a half-hourly profiles there for the site. I know the text is a bit small, but basically there are profiles on there showing the way the site operated, which was starting at around 6 a.m. each morning, Monday to Thursday, and then starting to knock off at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And you can see there's a very high base load there. And then on Friday, you can see that they basically end work roughly about lunchtime, and you can see the load decreasing faster on a Friday than on the Monday to the Thursday. And on the Saturday, there is some maintenance work in the morning, so you can see a little rise there. And on a Sunday, we have a day off in the UK on a Sunday generally, and you can see it's a fairly flat profile, but it's still very high. So when I saw this data, I thought to myself, why is the base load of electricity so high when they're not actually producing anything? It's completely non-logical. And the conclusion I came to before I even arrived at the site was there's a lot of equipment, compressed air, process equipment, that was all just left on during the night. And so when I walked around, I didn't do the audit at night, but did it during the day. But nevertheless, I said to them in my report, why don't you have a switch off campaign and get everybody to switch off plant and equipment at a certain time and then switch it on when you need it. And they ignored my report. And then 3 years later, I went back to do another survey, but this time they just started to implement my recommendations. And in the next slide, you can see the savings that were achieved, which is the electricity savings. So that should be a maroon slide there.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can see that the reddish color is in the year following compared to the previous year. And you can see the difference in each month of the savings achieved. There was no change in production. So the reduction in consumption couldn't be attributed to lower consumption. And there were no other energy saving measures going on. So we know that all the savings on this graph came from behavior change. And that was just switching stuff off. I'll come back to this case study a little bit later, but just to say, one of the reasons that they got moving on it, having sat on my recommendation for 3 years, was that the plant manager had a request from the chief executive to say, we would like you to do a report on your site. The chief executive contacted all 10 sites across the UK and said, I want a sustainability report on my desk in 6 weeks' time, and it's got to cover energy, water and waste. So the plant manager thought, well, we had a report done by John. Let's have a look at that. And the no cost item was the behavior change. So this didn't cost them anything to do. There's no capital involved. And that's how the savings came about. Again, that's a behavioral change thing. The chief executive saying to the plant manager, I want you to do something. And the plant manager saying to the rest of the departments, we're going to change the procedures. And then they just did it. And the savings were started overnight. If we move on to the next slide, I just want to show some figures from the United Arab Emirates to show you what the potential for people solutions might be. If you look at this graph here, you can see that industry is over 50% of end use energy, transport over 20%. The dark green is the commercial and public services at 10.3%. And the light green is residential. We'll ignore that. Not that it's unimportant, but it's relatively small in comparison with the big things. So if we take where we think the potential for savings through people solutions are, which would be industry and commerce and the public services to start with, into the next slide, potential energy savings. Yeah, we can see there the actual numbers in terms of megawatt hours per annum for the sector. If we then said 25% of that could be saved by technical solutions and 25% in the yellow by people solutions, you can see that the prize is about 106 million megawatt hours a year of energy. Now, if you said to me, well, I think 25% is too much. Okay, let's halve it. Let's go to 12.5%. Okay, how much is that? Well, it's still over 50 million megawatt hours. And a lot of that could be saved by low cost or no cost measures. And we're talking here about paybacks of around about a year or under. So why aren't people doing that? And the answer is, I don't know. I don't really know why people aren't doing it, because it's such a kind of obvious thing to do, but it requires a bit of a paradigm change. So I want to just introduce you now to a little diagnostic tool that we use, and we'll be going through this on the course in far more detail. And this is the EnCO challenge. That slides up now. Yep. And there's basically 5 aspects to EnCO that we talk about a lot. And these 5 aspects, I'm not going to go into them in detail, basically are shown here, which are engagement, alertness, skills, recognition, and adaptation. And the adaptation is really adapting to change. Change is normal in most organizations, ongoing change all the time. The question is, are you resilient enough in your data systems, in your approach to energy management, to be able to adapt to those changes quickly? And that's really important in people solutions. The others are pretty self-explanatory, but we basically say those 5 steps are key to people solutions, and also figuring out where you are in a particular organization. Now, the next slide is the levels of maturity against the 5 aspects. So then we've got the 5 aspects, but then we've got levels of maturity starting from level 0 and going up to level 4. So level 0, nothing is happening. It's just basically by practice, if you like. Let's not mince our words. But level 4 would be what we call best practice, and the other levels are maturity levels going from 0 to 4. So then we take the 5 aspects of EnCO and the 5 maturity levels, 0 to 4, and we put them into the EnCO matrix. Next slide, please. And in the EnCO matrix there, we've got on the left-hand side the 5 aspects. So those are the rows on the matrix. The columns go from, if you look at the top, you can see 0 up to 4. And I'm not expecting you to read the text in here. There's plenty of time to do that when you come on the course. But the point is that the words in the boxes reflect different levels of maturity. So typically in column 0, sorry, there's nothing really much happening in the organization. Whereas if you go to column 4 and all those aspects, it's best practice. So if we then take the case study I just mentioned earlier, next slide, please. There we've just drawn in the profiles roughly to show you the red and the green profiles. The red was when I arrived initially to do the energy audit and discovered the potential savings, and the green was after they'd made the savings. But even on the green profile, there was still room for improvement. There's still room to go. And by the way, in that particular factory, I basically said, it's not just people solutions, but there are technical solutions you could do. And they could have reduced their electricity consumption instead of by 25%, by 50%, if they'd implemented some of the technical solutions that I came up with. So we could have halved their electricity consumption for the same production output. As it turned out, that they only did a few of the technical solutions. They didn't do many. But the point is that this profile here on the matrix shows you the starting point, and the shape of the profile matters because if it's very uneven, it means that your strengths would be undermined by your weaknesses. The idea of the matrix is a simple diagnostic tool in order to give you some idea of where to go, where you could go, what the potential is. Managers quite like these diagrams. Quick word now on the EnCO organization. We started 5 years ago as a formal entity, the EnCO organization. It's called the EnCO Foundation now. And we are supported by the Energy Institute, which is the foremost professional energy body representing energy professionals in the UK. I'm a fellow of the Energy Institute, and I've been a member for 45 years. And so we work very closely with the Energy Institute, who also work quite a lot in the Middle East and all over the world. And the reason the Energy Institute are backing EnCO is simply because they realise the great potential like we do. And it's not generally addressed anywhere else. There's no other organisation in the UK dedicated to this. We're the only people actually pushing this. And the reason we're doing it is simply because we've applied it in practice, we've seen it work, and we want other energy professionals to be equipped to be able to do it. So the EnCO vision, next slide, what is it? Well, I'll leave you a moment to read this. So it's basically linking people with technology and data in order to save energy. And the next slide is the EnCO vision how. How are we going to do this? Well, what we want to do is to engage, equip and empower organizations and energy professionals globally to achieve significant energy savings through people. So far, we have EnCO consultants in 30 countries around the world. And we'd love to have a group in the Middle East. We really don't have anyone. And so, you know, there's great opportunity for you to be involved in EnCO. The next slide is the founding members. I won't go into this in too much detail, but just to say, here are the founding members. I'm one of them. And we're really delighted to be doing this work. When we started up, I was giving a fifth of my time free of charge to get this going. Someone said to me, but John, you're training up competition around the world to do what you do. And I'm thinking, yeah, but I'm not going to be around forever. I'd love to see energy professionals do more of what I do. And it can be another string to your bow, make you a more rounded consultant, and also give you additional skills that can bring in more fees or salary or whatever. So, you know, it's a win-win. Everybody wins. The organization wins, and you as the advisor or the consultant, you also win. Right, key objectives. Basically, the key objectives are just shown here, but I'm only going to mention them briefly. We're building up a bank of evidence to show that in practice, saving energy through people actually works. So on the EnCO website, we're putting up about 20 case studies, and a lot of these are verified. And then the next thing we're doing is creating capacity in the organization, capability, in order to get consultants globally involved in this general approach. It's not that we're sort of saying, here is a standard for behavior change or employee engagement or people solutions, but we're saying, here are some principles, and you as a consultant have to be clever in order to apply those principles in the situation you're in. Yeah, so it's not unlike ISO 50001, if any of you are familiar with that, where it's not prescriptive, but it's giving you guidelines, signposts, and approaches that can work. It's a tricky situation because sometimes people's solutions can fail. And that's why it's important to know what you're doing, but everybody has to start somewhere. Certainly when I started, I had a blank sheet of paper and I was scratching my head thinking, you know, what do I actually do here? And so those are some of our key objectives. Next one is EnCO organizations. And what we've got here is a step approach to becoming what essentially is an evidenced EnCO, an evidenced energy conscious organization. What we mean by evidence is that the organization has actually done behavior change, can prove that they've made savings, they've written a case study, they've applied for that status, they've been interviewed by the top professionals in the world, and they've been given this status. There are not many companies who've got this status at the moment. In the UK, we've got people like Rolls-Royce and the largest brick manufacturer and various other people, but to do it, it's a gold standard, if you like. But there are places entry. So you can see the first level is there, and it's basically saying, yes, we're going to do something. We're going to make a pledge. And then the next two are basically steps in that direction. It doesn't have to take 2 or 3 years. You could apply for full EnCO status right now if you've got the evidence in the case study to prove that you've already done it. So that's the stepwise approach to that. And then the community portal, next slide, please, is the essentially a portal that is about to be launched where we're trying to interconnect EnCO consultants globally. We've been running a thing called the EnCO Academy for the last 5 years for EnCO consultants, where we meet up and share our experiences every quarter online. But we are actually going further with that, and we're having newsletters every month. a greater social media presence and so on. So that's the community portal. Next slide, please. Case studies I've already mentioned. We've also got resource documents, and more are being added all the time. And on average, the payback on these case studies for behavioral change is around about 3 to 9 months. So, you know, it's the easy wins. I mean, I don't like the phrase low-hanging fruit that Naveed used, but I agree with it, that it's great opportunities. In fact, in my garden, I've had some plums on a plum tree, and it wasn't low-hanging fruit. All the fruit was actually on the ground, just waiting to be picked up. So that was brilliant. Next slide, please. In terms of EnCO case studies, here's just a sample, but one of our founder members was the energy manager of Heathrow Airport, one of the largest airports in the world. And, you know, there's a case study for Heathrow, there's Rolls-Royce, there are steel companies, there are all sorts of organizations, even schools, you know, so we go from the smallest to the largest organizations in the world. And if we move on to transferable principles, one of the key things about case studies is that people look at them and say, ah, yes, well, they're different to us. You know, we can't do what they did because we're a different organization. And that's a fair comment. So what we've tried to do is to say, right, what are the transferable principles at Rolls-Royce that they applied, which could be applied in any organization anywhere? And that's what's called a transferable principle. In other words, the benefit from the case study is the transferable principles. So we've worked very hard on that, and we're doing further work on it because we feel like if we're going to accelerate the replication of people solutions globally, the transferable principles are really important to get hold of and can inform the strategy that you're forming. And then in a moment, we're going to have a question and answer. I just wanted to warm you up for that, so that please feel free to ask any question. We've got plenty of time for questions. But before we do that, I just want to say a few words about the training in Dubai. Next slide, please. The EnCO training, which is on the 16th to the 17th of August. It's over a weekend. And that's in order so that, you know, if you have problems getting off work, then you can do it in your own time, perhaps. And it's arranged with our partners, IFRSLab. Thank you so much for hosting today's session. And also what we're trying to do is to equip energy professionals in the principles we've just been talking about. And there is written details about the course. Next slide, who should attend? Well, basically anyone interested in saving energy. I won't go through this list of bullet points, but, you know, if you're interested in reducing consumption costs and carbon in your organization, people solutions is an important thing that you should be thinking about. Okay, so anyone who's got any responsibility in those areas. And then, lastly, the benefits of EnCO training. There's a few bullet points on there, and I'm just going to leave them up for a moment for you to read, because you can read faster than I can speak. So I'll just leave them for you to look at. So at the end of the training, there's a short exam, and if you pass it, you can become an EnCO consultant, which is the first step towards becoming the coveted status of EnCO practitioner. And I'll come to that in a moment. So next slide, EnCO consultant. So you attend the exam, you attend the course, pass the exam, you become an EnCO consultant. And after a year, there is a small fee to continue with that registration, but it gives you access to resources, other EnCO consultants globally, and all sorts of good stuff. And then lastly, before we have the question and answer, there's the route to be the approved EnCO practitioner. And normally this takes maybe a year, but some people can jump straight in as a EnCO practitioner if they can prove they've done it. But essentially the difference between an EnCO consultant and an EnCO practitioner is that the EnCO consultant has been on the course, has passed an exam, and has got some theoretical knowledge. But the EnCO practitioner is someone who's done it, who's actually applied the principles, has written a case study with a client and can prove that the savings have been achieved through them applying EnCO principles. So that's the ultimate goal, to become EnCO practitioners. And we'd like hundreds and thousands of these people throughout the world, because they will be people who've proved that they've done it, they are doing it, and they are practicing these principles, just like me and my colleagues have been doing for years. So I hope that gives you a bit of a flavour for the session. And we've got what, about 25 minutes, Naveed, for questions and answers. So what I'd like you to do is just to unmute, raise any questions. If you're using the raising the hand business, Naveed, maybe you could just monitor that for me.
Yeah.
And you know, are you on sound now, Naveed?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Brilliant, excellent. And yeah, so thank you for your attention. It's been a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but I hope it's given you a bit of a flavour for what we're going to be doing in Dubai. And by the way, we will be giving you some pre-reading to do before you come on day one, and also between day one and day two. But it's not a very long session. It's like from 10 in the morning roughly till 4 in the afternoon. But also, Naveed and I would be available for one-to-one consultations and discussions with you at the end of the course if you've got particular issues that you want to raise that you think is more appropriate just to discuss on a one-to-one basis. So we're going to be in Naveed for 2 days. We're available if you want to talk to us or whatever, and you know, we're very happy to share any experience that we've got. So would anyone like to raise any questions or issues, or maybe you've got experience yourself of doing this already?
Good afternoon. I'm Yasser.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? Boss, I wanted to know about the accreditation. From which body this course is accredited?
Well, the course is accredited by the Energy Institute in the UK.
Energy Institute in the UK.
Yeah. And we have an internal accreditation process that is approved by the Energy Institute. And yeah, so that's it really.
Yeah.
Is it registered with the Dubai, from the Dubai, what we say, from the Dubai government and something like that? As I have done my CEM from AEE, so it is recognized by the Dubai government. So your program is just like that, or?
Yeah, so I know Association of Energy Engineers, which is the US-based organization. So you need that AECM or CA certificate to do energy audits in Dubai. As John explained, this program is relatively new worldwide. We are, like John started 5 years ago. So Energy Institute is actually similar to AEE. But in order to do the energy audits, you don't need EnCO certification. So yes, it can be in the future, if the Dubai government wants, we can get it accredited. But at the moment, it is recognized by the Department of Energy and Net Zero Security, isn't it, John? Security and Net Zero Strategy in the UK. However, because it's relatively new, we haven't yet had any conversation with Dubai or any other governments around the world. So I would say the simple answer is no, it's not recognized by the Dubai government yet, because we haven't been launching or doing any projects which do require this certification as a mandatory part of doing such works. However, in contrast to do energy audits in Middle East, you do need the certification from AE, which is part of the regulation.
Yes, we are doing, and I am practitioners of energy conservation in my organization.
Yeah.
And I am also facing the very high hurdles from the people side. So I know the importance of the managing people is very important to implement the energy conservation on our organization, in the organization. Yes, it is very important.
Yeah.
But you know, for the work in the Dubai, we need to get some accreditation from the Dubai government because of the because to implement and to raise our expectations from the Anyway, it's a good way. And
Yeah,
thank you for your clarification.
yeah, and as John said, we need hundreds of thousands of practitioners around the world. So maybe that's a
Yeah.
starting point. We come over there, deliver the training, work with you guys, and see the impact, and actually make contact with the, which I'm sure IFRSLab can arrange contact with the government to say, here's the new program. Do you want to recognize it? Because the demand is rising and it is actually delivering
Yes,
the
yes.
change that we
Yes, it is
expect.
very important for the every because I am handling more than 50 or 60 buildings, but at the ground level, this is very important to convey this message that how the energy implementation is very important.
Yeah. And you would realize, because I've done a lot of work with the AE as well. They do talk about behavior change. Although I appreciate John said, not the low hanging fruit. I would say quick paybacks. Everyone likes them, but there is no standard set of program on how to achieve this, and that's where we are filling this gap. But as you said, and as John said, we are not. As mature, outside the UK as we are here in the UK. So not everyone actually realizes that there is a set of a standard or separate dedicated approach available, which we can implement to maximize those savings. And that's where actually John and I are trying to come over there and deliver the training, get you guys on board, and also equip you and empower you to go and deliver those savings. And then with the help of case studies, we can go with the local government saying, do you want to recognize? And exactly same we are trying to do in Saudi Arabia as well.
Okay. Thank you very much, Naveed.
I
Thank you,
think,
John. Thank you.
thanks. I think another important point, in the UK, we have mandatory energy audits, and you have to be specially qualified to
Yes, we
do those. And Naveed and I are qualified as what's called ESOS lead assessors. But one of the things that EnCO have already done is influence the UK government to change the format of the recommendations that consultants have to come up with in energy audits. And there's now a line on behavior change that you have to separate the type of measures that you're putting into your energy audits, so that some of them might be control issues, it could be technical solutions, but there's one specifically on behavior issues. And virtually all the experts in the UK have been through the EnCO course back in 2020 and 2021, and it's been endorsed by the British government, the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero. And we're working closely with them in order to promote more people solutions within energy audits, because they discovered that consultants doing energy audits just focus just on the technical and data solutions. But
Right.
Yazia, like you've been looking at the people solutions, and you're quite unusual because most people don't.
Yes, my background is from the BMS controls and energy conservation. I am doing this projects from the last 12 or more than 12 years. From 2012, I am associated with this industry. And right now, I am facing, I have implemented the BMS and controls and these things in my sites. But I have hurdles, and I am facing uh, differences from the operators and our other side peoples. So
Yeah.
this is very important aspect.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
know,
good.
and I'm working on it actually.
Yeah, well, that's great to hear. And yeah, I hope we can meet you when we come out to Dubai. Was there any other people who would like to just raise any questions or make any comments?
Thank you.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Ritvik here. So my primary question would be, how does your course link back to any sort of like standard like ASHRAE 90.1 or something like along those lines? Because my current issue that I'm facing is that it's very hard for me to convince clients as to the implementation of no cost, low cost measures. If I can just spare an example for the group as well, is that during one of my audits here, I found that the FAHU unit was getting a lot of dust build up on its filters, and a lot of it was getting, passed on directly to the heat exchangers.
Yep.
I recommended them just to get the maintenance people to also clean the heat exchangers when they were doing their AMC, and my recommendation was not followed by them. So I particularly find it very difficult to give them very low cost solutions, and then they simply don't implement it. So if it is part of something like a ASHRAE standard or something, I think they will take it up more seriously.
Okay, well, just a couple of points on that. First of all, I think what you've experienced there, Ritvik, is very common. And certainly we experience the same things in the UK. I think I'd say two things. One is the whole idea of getting top management and middle management engagement in energy saving projects is really important. And a key part of EnCO is that we talk a lot about that. How do we actually secure bigger buy-in from the reports and the recommendations that we make? That's a key aspect of EnCO, because we recognize that is really important, just as you said. The second thing is, in terms of modeling on standards, I'm an ISO 50001 practitioner. And if you look in ISO 50001, there are some very important clauses on specifically people solutions. One of them is competency, another is awareness, and a third one is communications, both internal and external. And if you have certification to ISO 50001, theoretically, you should be addressing people solutions because they're there as a requirement of the standard. But very often people sort of pay lip service to that and don't do it very well. And therefore, EnCO can actually strengthen the implementation of ISO 50001. We also believe that ISO 50001 is a very good structured approach to energy management in general, because every aspect of ISO 50001 requires a response from people in some form or other. So there are specific people clauses in there, but also every clause involves people, whether it's top management, the management representative and the energy team, whether it's to do with the building it into the procurement processes and so on. So therefore, the standard that we focus mostly on is the ISO 50001, simply because it is a global standard, and we have a lot of experience of implementing that as well. But we are familiar with the other standards around the world, and some of them also take into account people solutions.
Yeah, and just to add on that, Ritvik, so I know ASHRAE, level 1, 2, and 3 audits, and similar ISO 50002. So those standards actually tell you how to do or carry out an energy audit, but they can't specifically tell us what to find, how to find technical solutions, because that comes down to the problems you see and at your own competency. But you can relate it back to those standards, because those standards do encourage you again to look for the low capex solutions. And again, let's say, for example, if you visit a HVAC plant and you want to rebalance the airflow system, so ASHRAE would not tell you what standard to follow, but it will say you have to look around what is applicable and you have to follow the local rules. In order to deliver the rebalancing, you might have to go back to the specialist to carry out the rebalancing of air. So similarly, if your recommendation says we have some behavior issues here, nobody is actually following the SOPs here, such as maintenance team not looking after the filters after every 6 months, or the sensor which is looking after the filter has been changed and nobody is bothering changing it. So it actually then goes back to the EnCO that we need to raise awareness of the people who are handling that plant. So that's how you can, as I said, reconnect those different standards with each other. Because ASHRAE or ISO 50002 cannot tell us specifically that if you come across this solution or problem, you need to go to certain standard to find the solution. Because we can be independent in that respect, otherwise it will be very biased solution. So hopefully you can understand the difference between ASHRAE and this standard, whereas ASHRAE tells you how to carry out energy audits. But when it comes to solutions, you have to go around and shop around to see what is available and what are the local laws, such as, there are a lot of mechanical, electrical laws, which could be different in UK compared to Saudi or Middle East.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. Thank you for your time, gentlemen.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? could I just ask you another question? And that is, what do you think the potential is for this approach in the Middle East?
Yeah, any volunteer?
I think there is a very potential. This approach is very, very required for our in Middle East especially. My experience in Middle East is I'm from last 3.5 years in this Middle East, and I'm working with the more than 40 buildings. So I think in every sector, uh, we need to implement this approach. And for me, it's very, very important. And recently, I point out these things, and I am working on it to change the behavior of our team and our people. And even for the top management, I have to do some presentations and these type of things to convince our management also. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
very,
yeah.
very important.
That's
Yeah.
brilliant. Excellent.
For your question, I particularly feel like I'm not sure if your particular like classification, you have this kind of classification or not, but I think having an industrial versus a commercial classification would help a lot, because industrial partners tend to, understand energy management and energy savings a lot better, because it hits their bottom line a lot more prominently. Whereas in the residential or commercial sectors, basic response that we typically find is that the savings are not high enough because of the scale of the projects a lot of times. So we, like in my particular case, we have a lot of clients who, if they have multiple like commercial buildings under them, it is easier for us to convince them of implementation of certain strategies versus somebody who has one or two buildings, because they don't find the value of implementing automations or systems like that when it comes to energy saving and energy management. So that is a risk reward kind of a thing, which wherein the larger scale players are a lot more accepting of these things. So I think a classification like that would, really help a lot out.
Well, that's very useful. One of the things that we're doing, Ritvig, is that we're developing guidance and standards within EnCO as part of a working group that will hopefully influence people around the world, because we recognize that there's very little in the way of guiding principles out there, and that can influence policies and standards. And so we're working closely with BSI in the UK, who are part of ISO. And the whole idea behind the EnCO principles is to get better engagement, both at policy and practical standards levels in terms of implementation. And we recognize that's something that we need to do, but we're only really getting started on that right now.
Yeah. And I would say EnCO is kind of, I appreciate your comment, Ritvik. EnCO is kind of independent of automation in one way, because what it does, it focuses on the energy which is controlled by humans or people on the shop floor. So even though, because I've done a lot of industrial audits and commercial audits in my life, even though when buildings are fully automated, but there is a man behind, who is controlling, sitting in front of the BMS screen. And I've seen several examples where BMS engineer overrides something because he gets a call or complaint, but there's no check back. Well, the first thing should be the root cause analysis, why did it happen, and second should be to reset to its original position after the issue has been resolved, which never happens. So hence, when it comes to EnCO, we try to be independent of any particular technology or system, because it's the people behavior, and you can apply that change, the culture or the behavior that you've learned in any environment, whether it's controlling BMS or doing the maintenance, as you pointed out, or even if you are running a machine, you can actually realize that when are the times when you're out of production and can I switch it off. So giving that awareness of asking a question to yourself, can I switch this machine off when I'm on a break? And it will get you to thinking about the solution. And if you think, yes, you can, but actually there's no SOP or system around to get you simply saying, okay, here's the turn off button. And it gives you confidence at the same time, which I'm sure John has realized. When we walk around the industries, we've seen equipment running for last several years, and nobody dares to turn them off because they don't have the confidence whether it will kick on again after we turn it off and turn it back on. So that's where I would say EnCO is actually independent of any particular technology or systems.
Yeah, and all the EnCO consultants are involved are not paid for by utility companies or equipment suppliers. We are, want to give completely independent, unbiased advice, and we value that because it builds trust with the client that essentially we're on the side of the client. We don't have any vested interests, and we want to just help them to save energy and nothing else. Good. Well, any final questions before we wrap up? Because we said it would be about an hour, roughly an hour's gone by, and I just wondered if there was any final comments or questions before we conclude.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir, if I may.
Yes, please.
First of all, thank you for a very sharp and clear presentation. It was very enlightening, especially specifically for myself. I'll try to answer your question that behavioral things, they are all linked to the level of awareness. And the level of awareness could be low in UK, Middle East, or, well, it's pretty much the same throughout the world. And one more thing I want to add, if we're talking about the Middle East and deployment in the Middle East, the AI integration to any solutions, including human behavior, would be very beneficial and would be very much appreciated by Middle East management. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that comment. And it's certainly one we're considering already. And I wouldn't say we've come up with any solutions to it. But I think Naveed did send me something on LinkedIn recently where it said that, a lot of jobs will be lost to AI. But the three top jobs, interestingly, were to do with people working in AI, which is not surprising. Second one was computer programmers. And the third one, believe it or not, was energy experts. Is that not right, Naveed?
Yeah.
And that's caused me to think quite a lot about the role of AI in what we do. And I personally think that energy professionals, like many of you here today, require such a multiplicity of skills in different areas to be successful. And in other words, you need to know a lot, a small amount about a lot of different things. And I kind of wonder if that's where that might be the challenge to AI. I don't know. I might be completely wrong, and probably will be proved so. But nevertheless, I found it intriguing that energy experts were high up on the list of people whose jobs were secure in an AI future. And I think that probably bodes well for all of us here. So yeah. Anyone else got any other final comments before we finish?
Hi, I have a few questions. Like when you're providing the training in UAE, okay, so what sectors exactly you are into? Like, say for example, my expectation will be if the majority of the buildings are the coolings are provided by the district cooling plant, which is the main two suppliers, Empower and Tabri. Okay, these are two government entities from Dubai and Abu Dhabi. So they have district cooling plants of like 100,000 RT and 200,000 RT in each locations. Okay, so that is one of the major consumer for this country. And second is the industries. So industries, here we have a lot of industries like automotive manufacturing industries, ceramic industries. So you people really give training in these sector-specific industries like ceramic industries and like packaging industries, then food and beverage industries. Like what kind of industries you will be covering, or you have any limitation to certain industries, or you are into like all kind of industries? Yeah, for example, either dairy farm industry. Here, say for example, chicken and beef industry is also having farms of very high size, and they are also having cooling it's a cooling-based indoor farm kind of thing. So those are very typical unique industries related to only GCC region, because unlike you cannot find any air-conditioned poultry in other countries. So what are the sectors you will be providing the expertise, and what you have limitations? So that one I want to know.
Sure. Well, we've got case studies from lots of different sectors, and including ceramics, steel, manufacturing.
Okay.
Yeah. So for instance, Ibstock Brick are the biggest brick manufacturer in the UK. I put in ISO 50001 for them, and they've been at the forefront of behaviour change and won many awards for what they've done. So the energy manager there applied EnCO principles and had great success. So yeah, so we do work with different sectors, and I also advise the ceramics industry in the UK as a sort of roving external consultant, and I speak at their conferences. British Ceramics is the trade body. So yeah, we work in lots of sectors, and we will be using case studies on the course in Dubai, and we can select the types of case studies that are most likely to appeal to the people coming on the course. So when you sign up for the course, we'll ask you what sector you're from and what areas of interest, and we'll try and tailor the course to the people coming on the course.
Yeah, and I would say, as John earlier said during the slides, those skills can be applied in any sector, any department, because as said, it gives you the I would say confidence, and also the thinking process that you can ask the questions. As you said, if you are related to a particular standard, then it empowers you to check out how good or bad you are compared to your own sector. And also at the same time, as John mentioned, John and I will be available there for 2 days. And I've done a lot of industrial energy audit, because that's my specialty. That's where I come from. So we can also have one-to-one chat to understand about the industry, the process that you follow. And actually, a final comment, I've done a lot of food and kind of poultry and animal research centers here in the UK. So they are also air-conditioned here in the UK, but in contrast, cooling, it's heating and moisture control. So a lot of humidity control. So they do become very energy intensive setups, which I've audited. So I'm sure I would love to have a chat in much more detail when we are out there during our lunch breaks, prayer breaks. So yeah, feel free to, of course, bring any questions, any challenges you on the day.
Thank you.
Okay. Naveed, shall we hand now back to
Umar? Yeah, unless anyone has got any pressing, otherwise I would say John and I are here, and in the meantime, if there are any questions, I'm sure IFRS and their team are also there to answer any questions on the dates, on the venue, on the fees as well. I believe everything is up and running on the website, but I think Mohammed, Umar, or someone from IFRS can explain it better than I or John can do. So over to you, Umar.
Thank you, John and Naveed, for this very informational session. And I'm very excited to joining the in-person session in the UAE as well. To all of you, thank you for taking out the time on this weekend to join us. And we do invite you to join us in UAE in the next month as well. In the meanwhile, if you have any questions on the procedures on how to join or what the course would entail, please feel free to reach out to us, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. And thank you once again for joining us, and I look forward to meeting you all.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.